all of that, Nick Ferrari and Ashley James are with us to chat through today's biggest stories. Morning.
Morning, both of you. The Met Police are making the headlines this morning. An undercover BBC Panorama documentary aired last night where secret filming exposed racism and misogyny within London's Met Police.
Many of the comments were so shocking that we can't actually broadcast them, but here's some of what we can show you.
I love taking fingerprints by force because I'm like, give me your fingerprints, but no, I'm going to break your fingers if you don't give them to me.
Islam is a problem, a serious problem, I think.
I've paid money to go to clubs and see women dressed like this.
They are, as Kat was saying, some of the only comments that we could show from the documentary that was aired last night. Nick and Ashley join us now. Nick, I think you've spoken to the Met Police Commissioner on your show this morning. I mean, it's indefensible what we heard last night, isn't it?
Yes. It is, Ben, morning. And he's not seeking to defend it in any way, shape or form. He's labelled it reprehensible. A fairly lengthy interview with me, a couple of hours or so ago. He points to some success stories. He says that on his watch, 1,500 officers have been booted out of the Metropolitan Police. To give you some context, there are about 33,000 officers, aside from civilian staff, serving in the Metropolitan Police, and you have never seen a clear-out like this before. I need to stress, not all on this level, not all to do with racism, those 1,500, or homophobia. Some of them are many, many other offences, down to improper arrest and matters such as that. But it's a hell of a task on his hands. It's not been helped by this, and he's determined to get them out as quickly as he possibly can. And that speaks to a change of the law that he and other senior officers managed to bring about, because very briefly, it's an intriguing place of employment, the police. If I said something like that on LBC, Kat, Ben, if you said that on this morning, we'd be gone by the afternoon. Yeah. The police have certain procedures they have to go through before an officer can actually be dismissed. It used to take months. Sir Mark and other chief constables have got it down to weeks, and he wants them gone within weeks.
I mean, interestingly, Sir Mark Rowley came in 2022, Ashley, and he was charged with some issues which were around misogyny, racism, sort of within the Met Police. That was one of the things that he set about trying to improve. As Nick was saying, he might have improved the processes to get them out, but when you see a documentary like this and you hear these police officers saying these things, it doesn't feel like we've moved much down the line.
Yeah, exactly, and this is only from, one station, and we know that actually sexism, racism, homophobia, it's rife within the police force. And obviously I know that there'll be so many brilliant police officers reeling from this documentary last night. But, it's very upsetting, and I wish I could say I was shocked or surprised, but I'm not, because we saw countless reports, especially after Wayne Couzens, David Carrick, where it's shown that the Met Police has a sexism problem. The Macpherson report came out in the 90s following the murder of Stephen Lawrence. That showed that there's, a problem with racism, and it's just so frustrating. Like, how many reports do we need to get commissioned? What is actually going to be done? And actually, it's the culture that has allowed this, because obviously this documentary, this investigative journalist managed to get into the police force. But think of all the people that are listening within these culture, within these environments. If somebody hears something that is sexist, misogynistic, and I urge everyone actually to go and watch, because obviously we can't talk about it on air, but go and read some of the things that have been said, and it's so discouraging, especially as a woman, that already our conviction rates for sexual violence is so low, and this isn't going to encourage anyone to go forward. Like, some of the comments that are made, especially in the case of a pregnant woman who is sexually assaulted or allegedly sexually assaulted, and she was already brave enough to go forward, but to hear the comments that police officer said about her, this is why so many people don't come forward. And we saw in the case of Wayne Couzens, which I feel like changed, I'm the same age as Sarah Everard, I live in the same area as Sarah Everard, that case particularly changed my whole world. And to think that we still have to fear the police. And obviously, it's Black History Month, kicking off Black History Month. I can only imagine how it feels to be a black person, how it feels to be a Muslim person. And, I've got friends who are Muslim who are too scared to go on public transport at the moment. The police are meant to be protecting them. And it's just so heartbreaking, actually, for them to have to watch something like this, but people will not be surprised.
Nick, what was the reaction? I imagine you probably had some police officers phoning into your show this morning who would be, as Ashley's saying, devastated to watch this, because it's a small minority, but they are causing undue damage to the reputation of the police.
Yeah, some of the most moving calls that I took actually were from serving officers, many of whom, of course, gave false names, so I won't even put those names out there. And there was one who said, it was simple as this, Ben, this is a betrayal. We see people in their worst moments. We see the most barbaric acts committed against people at their most vulnerable. We do not then sit around making jokes about them or racist comments. So I think... And I remind everybody, 33,000 roughly officers in the Met, 147,000 police officers in England and Wales, incredibly brave men and women who will run towards danger, as most of us would run completely the other way. They will be doing work as we speak now, either in uniform or undercover, work that keeps us all safe. This is appalling. They probably are as disgusted by it, even more than the four of us sitting around there. This is not what they sign up to do. So Mark Rowley has got a huge job in this. I've been very critical of Mark, and he knows that. He and I have had a good few go-rounds. There we are, Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, the nation's #1 cop. He and I have had some fairly testy exchanges in the past, but I will give him this. I know him. I've known him for years. This will be hurting him personally. And look to what he's done. 1,400 officers have felt empowered, to Ashley's point, to call this out. 1,400 officers have come forward under Sir Mark and said, I have got a problem with this copper, I've got a problem with this colleague, and 1,500 have gone. So we do need to look at that, not disputing for a second the magnitude of this appalling case. Let's look at what he has achieved to a point.
I think the only thing more disappointing for me than the actual documentary was seeing some of the comment sections in the media of people excusing these attitudes and this behaviour. And I feel like, you know, whether it's the police force or any other part of society, we still dismiss a lot of these sexist and racist comments as banter. And actually the fact that, you know, lots of people will have heard, not just the journalist in the room, but lots of people will have heard these types of conversations. And to remind everybody, after Wayne Couzens and after the report, he could have been stopped had somebody stepped forward and said, this is not appropriate, and reported him sooner. So for anybody that does hear extreme language and jokes, it's not banter, because it does have a devastating knock-on impact.
Yeah.
OK.
Yeah. Let's move on to a story that is... Actually, it was just really recently. We were sitting here and we were talking about Trump's visit to the UK. We were talking about the pageantry. We were talking about the celebrations that were involved.
The cost.
And I said it was grotesque spending.
That's exactly what you said, Ashley. Well, according to reports today, the government spent more than £50,000 to replace US flags for Trump's state visit to the UK last month because they were the wrong shade of red.
You've just dyed your hair red. Is that American hair?
Is it American red?
What I do know is I did not pay £50,000 of public money, might I add.
That would have been cheap to look that good, don't worry.
Public money. For me, this is like giving Alice in Wonderland, you know, the Queen of Hearts, like, who's been painting my roses red? And it's coming back to this, I said it last time, but this grotesque use of public money in a time where we are telling people to, you know, we're living through a cost of living crisis, telling people there is no money. And I'm sure that lots of people will say £52,000 or however much it was in the grand scheme of things is nothing. But this is, like, we are all taught that to save, you've got to count your pennies. So why, when it comes to public money, is this fine? And who cares? If I was a leader, which I know Nick pointed out in the last show that he would hate for me to be leader, but I think it just shows that these leaders do not care about people living in poverty in their country. Why do you care about the shade of red?
Well, let me just define the shade of red for you,
Please
Ashley.
do.
The Americans decided that the red we use, which is called R01, wasn't right for them, and that they wanted a cherry red instead.
Nick, can you see those two?
Those are the two different colours.
Well, you can see them.
I can see them.
Was it worth spending £50,000 to improve the colour?
Yes, because either we're going to do this right or we're not going to do it right. This is our closest ally. Please suspend, and I understand and I respect that Ashley is no fan of Donald Trump. Suspend the man himself, and let's respect the office of the President of the United States, our closest ally, someone who came and did billions of pounds worth of trade on that trip alone, where British have an extraordinary reputation of the military ceremonies arriving to the second, the president arriving to the second, the guard being absolutely right that he inspected. We either pride ourselves on doing everything right, or we accept, oh, what a shame, we're off by a shade or 3 or 4 or 5. So I know £50,000 is a lot of money, and credit to Ashley, she's already said in the scale of things, and I say in the scale of this trip, the scale of the business that we've done, it is honestly a round of drinks. I know people will be appalled. 50 grand is a lot, but yes, we had to do it because in Britain, we get things right.
Nick, why do you always justify spending at the top, but then you don't justify spending to the people who need it most? Because actually, if Donald Trump and his team will only give investment if the shade of red is correct, I think it's pathetic.
No, I'm not saying, by the way, that's not, I think I've been misrepresented. I'm not saying that they said we won't do the deal unless you change the colour, but I'd ask you to remind me when I've not been there to support people at the other scale. You just accused me of that. Well, when was that, Ashley?
No, when we talk about, like, universal credit or tightening up on benefits, and it's like, we always talk about how much that's costing, but why don't we care about how much these nonsensical things are costing? And also, if someone made a mistake, why does it have to come from public money to correct it?
But I think we're just on a different premise, and I absolutely respect your point of view. But to me, getting it right is absolutely crucial. It's not a point of being ridicule or ridiculous. It's just showing that we know what we do. And I sort of spin it round. Had the king gone and the flags, the United flag, the Union flag had been incorrectly coloured, I think we might have thought, well, good Lord, why can't the Americans get the colour of our flag right? And I wouldn't have wanted that dialogue to start in America
also,
and then saying we can't even get the flags right.
Yeah.
Imagine how powerful it would be if Donald Trump was like, do you know what? That £52,000, let's give it to a food bank. People in my country and your country are really suffering.
I wonder if Donald Trump would have noticed in the first place.
I don't even know if he knew personally, did he?
I mean, Donald Trump has slight issues with his own
To Nick's point, it's the details that are really important of these things. We have more things that Nick and Ashley will be able to disagree with a little bit later on. Nick will be joining us in the studio. And maybe we'll get to the agreeing. Yeah, maybe we'll get into the agreeing as well. Nick's going to be joining us. We lost us. He'll be in the studio, though, so it doesn't matter.
Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. And we'll see you in the morning.